There's one in every home, that old, forgotten scrap of heavy metal sitting in the garage, the shed, or the backyard, the one you walk past without a second thought. Most people see it as junk. Rusty iron, dead weight, something to eventually haul to the scrapyard for a few bucks, but in a post-collapse world, it's not junk. It's raw, high-carbon steel compressed under decades of freight trains. It's a strategic resource most survivors will completely overlook while they fight over the obvious stuff. And that psychological divide is already forming. The masses who default to roads and pavement will scramble for scraps, while those who truly understand hidden value will have already secured multiple critical survival systems from a single overlooked line of track. After a collapse, everyone defaults to roads. It's automatic. Roads are how you've moved through the world your entire life. They connect every place to every other place. They're flat, they're paved. They're easy to walk on, and your brain's navigation system is built entirely around them. When you think about getting from point A to point B, you think in roads. And that instinct, that absolute certainty that roads are how people move, is going to get a lot of people into serious trouble. Because in a post-collapse environment, roads become the single most dangerous terrain feature in the landscape. Roads are where the checkpoints form. Roads are where territorial groups establish control. Roads are where ambushes happen because roads are predictable. They funnel movement into narrow corridors with limited escape options. They're observable from elevated positions on either side. In every intersection is a natural choke point where someone with authority or weapons can stop, question, tax, or rob everyone who passes through. Within weeks of a collapse, the major roads in any area will be controlled, monitored, or at minimum observed by whoever has claimed the territory they pass through. And traveling on them means submitting to whatever terms those controllers impose. Meanwhile, running through every city, every suburb, and every rural stretch of the country, there is an alternative network that is flat, straight, clear, continuous for hundreds of miles. Almost completely free of human presence, and invisible to anyone who isn't standing directly on it. There are roughly 140,000 miles of railroad track in the United States, and in a collapse, every steel rail delivers three things that no asphalt or pavement can ever match. Thing 1, massive quantities of high-carbon tool-grade steel for weapons, tools, and structural reinforcement. A single standard railroad rail weighs between 115 and 140 pounds per yard, often closer to 132 pounds on main lines. That's dense, high-carbon steel engineered to withstand millions of tons of rolling freight without deforming. The composition typically runs 0.55% to 0.82% carbon, with added manganese for toughness and abrasion resistance. This isn't mild scrap, it's compressed, work-hardened material that produces serious edge-holding capability when properly processed. One 39-foot section of rail turns into multiple machete blades, spear points, or heavy chopping tools after cutting and shaping. The same rail produces hammer heads, anvil surfaces, or reinforced striking edges that outperform most hardware store steel in a long-term grid-down scenario. Cut it into shorter lengths, and you have instant pry bars strong enough to breach doors or reinforced entry points. Weld or forge sections together, and you gain structural beams for shelters, gates, or vehicle reinforcement that asphalt rubble simply cannot provide. The efficiency is brutal. 1 mile of abandoned track yields over 400,000 pounds of usable steel. Most survivors will never think to claim it because they still see train tracks instead of raw materials. But the ones who do gain a massive advantage in both offensive capability and defensive fortification. That steel doesn't rust as fast as lighter scrap, holds an edge longer, and gives you repeatable production capacity when factories are gone. Thing 2, dense creosote-treated hardwood that becomes long-burning fuel, construction timber, and natural preservative stock. Beneath every rail sit the wooden crossties, typically 8 to 9 feet long, 7 inches wide, and 9 inches thick, cut from dense hardwoods like oak or hickory. A single treated tie weighs 150 to 200 pounds and is pressure-infused with creosote, giving it decades of rot and insect resistance that untreated lumber can only dream of. In survival terms, one tie produces extended burn time in a fire, slow, hot, and reliable even in wet conditions. Stack and split several and you have instant
Stay
fuel
sharp.
that outlasts
Keep
softwoods by hours.
sun's almost
Perfect for
gone.
cooking, heating, or
see
signaling
lights
without
ahead.
constant
Good.
feeding.
We push on.
The same dense wood turns into defensive barriers, shelter flooring, or raised garden beds that resist ground moisture far better than fresh-cut lumber. The creosote residue adds natural pest-repelling properties, making ties valuable for animal enclosures or perimeter stakes that deter rodents and insects. Quantities scale fast. A typical stretch of track has ties spaced every 19 to 24 inches, meaning hundreds per mile. Each one gives you a ready-made beam or post that requires minimal processing. While others burn through their stored firewood in weeks, you maintain sustained heat and structural projects for material that was designed to last outdoors for 15-30+ years. The hidden value compounds. The creosote smell and treatment make these ties immediately recognizable once you know what to look for, letting you secure stockpiles before the scramble begins. Thing 3, crushed angular stone ballast that delivers drainage, filtration, and foundational stability for any camp or fortification. Railroad ballast isn't ordinary gravel. It's hard, angular crushed stone, usually granite, limestone, or trap rock, sized between 1 and 3 inches. Chosen specifically because the sharp edges lock together under pressure while allowing water to drain freely. A standard track section carries hundreds of tons of this material per mile, piled in a deep, stable bed that supports the entire system. In a collapse, this ballast turns into instant camp infrastructure. Spread it as a base layer, and you create elevated, well-draining flooring that prevents mud and standing water even after heavy rain, a massive upgrade over dirt or asphalt runoff. Use it to line fire pits for better airflow and heat retention. Pack it around shelter posts for rock-solid anchoring that resists shifting. Filter water by layering finer ballast with sand, or use larger pieces for defensive berms and erosion control around your position. The properties are engineered for durability, excellent drainage, high load-bearing capacity, and resistance to breakdown. One overlooked stretch of right-of-way supplies enough material to stabilize an entire outpost or create multiple filtration systems. Most people walk right over it thinking it's just rocks under the tracks. Those who understand see multiple survival systems, drainage, defense. Construction base, compressed into one resource that requires almost no additional processing. Here's what multiplies the real power. These 3 elements don't exist in isolation. They form an interconnected system. The steel rails provide structure and tools. The wooden ties deliver fuel and timber. The ballast supplies foundation and drainage.
Improvise.
Together,
what's
one
here.
short section of abandoned track produces weapons, long-term fire capability,
Stay sharp.
shelter
Keep
materials,
moving.
defensive
Sun's
positioning,
almost gone.
and camp hygiene,
I see
all
lights
for
ahead.
materials engineered
Good.
for
We
extreme
push on.
punishment and left largely unguarded because they sit off the main roads where people instinctively look. Most survivors will stay locked into their road-based thinking, exposing themselves at every choke point while fighting over dwindling supplies. The few who break that mental default and claim the rail network gain efficiency, scarcity advantage, and layered capability that asphalt can never deliver. One overlooked stretch becomes several complete survival systems. One rail line becomes mobility without observation, resources without competition, and resilience without constant resupply. The tracks are still there, quiet, straight, waiting. The question isn't whether they'll be valuable in the weeks after collapse. The question is whether you'll be one of the ones who already understood their true worth before everyone else finally sees it.